Daddy and His Girl. Once upon a time, in the land of never was, a place where big girls are sometimes little girls, and their lovers are their daddies, there was a girl and her daddy. The girl loved her daddy whole bunches and knew that she was his bestest girl. She thought that her daddy was the best daddy, and she loved him whole bunches. Although most people would have said that daddy spoiled his girl shamelessly, they would also have to admit that she was very well behaved. Or at least they would have said that if they had not witnessed some of her tantrums or misbehavior. It was on these occasions that Daddy gave his girl spankings on her bare bottom. She had patiently tried to explain to Daddy that she was much too old for spankings and way too old for bare bottom spankings. But the girl's arguments had no effect on her daddy. The girl thought that she was very noble and forgiving to still love Daddy bunches and bunches, even when he cruelly spanked her and made her cry. When the girl had one of her bad days and bedtime came around, Daddy would tell his girl that it was time for bed and to get ready for a spanking. Then the girl would once again consider whether her most reasonable argument about being too old for spankings and way too old for bare bottom spankings might succeed this time. The last time she had presented this most reasonable of arguments, Daddy had pulled her over his knee, raised her skirt, pulled down her skimpy little string bikini panties, and spanked her until she agreed that she was not too old for bare bottom spankings. And then, can you believe this? Her mean old daddy sent her to her room and gave her another spanking. With this previous experience in mind, the girl just pouted and trudged off to her room, thinking about how unfair Daddy was. Why couldn't her daddy take the advice of those nice psychologists and give her a good talking to, rather than a good hard spanking? Although she never, ever would have admitted it, when she knew she had been naughty, it made her feel kinda sorta bad. After she had taken her spanking, she would feel like a good girl again. She just wished there was some way to feel like a good girl again without having her bare bottom paddled over Daddy's knee. One warm summer day, the girl was bored. Daddy was working, doing boring things on the computer, and none of her friends could come over and play. She did not feel like reading, and Daddy was very strict about her television watching, so she could not watch TV. The girl was bored, so she thought that she would go walking in the woods. After walking for about 10 minutes, she came to a road near her house, which was cut into a wooded hill. She could sit at the top of the cut and look down on the cars as they went by below. At the bottom of the cut, there was a "Beware Falling Rock" sign. Watching the cars go by was okay for a while, but the girl was still bored. The girl looked down at the sign. Since the sign already said, "Beware falling rock," it somehow seemed okay to throw dirt clods and old rotten pieces of sandstone down on the road. This was really fun. The dirt clods and soft stone exploded when they hit, scattering pieces all over the road. The girl did this for a while until her tummy started talking to her. Her tummy told her that it was time for lunch, which is what her Winnie the Pooh watch also said. So she went skipping home to have lunch with Daddy. When Daddy asked her how she had spent the morning, she said that she had been walking in the woods, which was true, of course, but not the whole story. Girls who lied to their beloved daddies deserved spankings. All Daddy really needed to know was the big picture, she was sure. That afternoon, the girl had to do some work too, so she went to the library in their house. The library had dark bookcases that went all the way to the ceiling, and a table with 2 desk lights where the girl could study. Who were these 2 guys, Percival and Walden? She asked herself. What a dusty old book. How come they couldn't write something fun? And her mind wandered off to how she had spent the morning. It had been fun throwing the dirt clods and rocks down onto the road and watching them smash. Then other thoughts started to creep into this image. She imagined a car hitting a rock and getting all dented up. Or, she thought, what if the car swerved and hit in a car coming toward it? These thoughts were not very fun, and the girl started to feel like a very naughty girl. She knew that she was Daddy's bestest girl and that Daddy loved her. Daddy could make it all better. That evening, the girl and her daddy had a salad and some chicken in a white wine sauce. Daddy always cooked good stuff for his bestest girl, and they talked about the dusty old book she was reading, and Daddy told her stories about an old dead Russian who had a funny name, Kolmogorov. The girl always loved Daddy's stories, and she felt sorry for the man with the funny name who was very scared of another really horrible man named Stalin. After she had washed the dishes, the girl went to where her daddy was reading in the living room. She sort of shuffled into the room, looking down at her toes, so Daddy knew that something was up. Daddy, the girl said, her voice trailing off. Yes, said Daddy. I feel bad, Daddy, the girl said. Do you have a stomach ache? Asked Daddy. No, not that kind of bad, she said as she kicked at the carpet. I feel bad because of something I did, she said, looking down at the carpet and suddenly discovering that it had a fascinating design. Well then, maybe you need a spanking to make it all better. What do you think? Daddy asked. The girl hated those "what do you think" questions. She knew that she needed a spanking, but the problem with spankings was they hurt. A lot. But after a spanking, would feel all be better. Maybe Daddy would just give her a little spanking that would make her feel better, but not hurt too much. So she said, well, maybe I do need a spankin'. Okay, honey, Daddy said. I want you to go to your room and get ready for bed. I'll be up in a few minutes, and you can tell me about what happened, and we'll make it all better. Yes, sir, said the girl. The girl brushed her teeth and flossed. Daddy's like flossing, washed her face, and undressed to her panties. They were little white cotton string bikini panties with little blue flowers on them. She put on a white cotton shorty nightie and sat down on the bed to wait. As she waited for Daddy, she started to think about how much a spanking for throwing rocks and dirt on the road would hurt. Maybe she should make up a story about something that was not as naughty. Then she would still get a spanking, but it would not hurt as much. But that would mean lying to Daddy, and lying was really, really naughty. and if she fibbed, she'd get a spanking. But she would still feel bad for fibbing. So she resolved to tell Daddy the truth and take her spanking, even though it would hurt a lot. Although she was probably only waited 10 minutes or so, it seemed to the girl that she was waiting for hours and hours, thinking about the spanking she had coming. Finally, she heard Daddy's footsteps on the stairs. When her daddy came into the room, he found his girl sitting on the bed, staring at a spot on the floor.